I've had asthma all of my life, but as a kid I just accepted breathing problems as normal. One time, however, my breathing, or lack of, got so bad that my father rushed me to the ER, where they quickly gave me an adrenaline shot which helped instantly. I felt as though I could almost have run all the way home with my newfound ease of breathing. They talked about giving me an inhaler, but it wasn't for several years after this incident that I began using one. It wasn't really until my early teens that I remember getting an inhaler, and I've been using one ever since. Sure, I tend to use it more during the allergy seasons. For me it's fall and spring, but during the other seasons the symptoms slow down to a crawl, and I barely feel the need to use an inhaler at all. During these good seasons I use it mainly during intense martial arts sessions, or if I'm around an allergen, such as a cat or cigarette smoke. This fall was unusually brutal for my breathing, and many would attest to how bad the summer-fall of 2011 was on all of us with allergies and/or asthma. I was all out of my rescue inhaler as well as my daily inhaler called Flovent. On top of that, they decided to outlaw the sale of primate mist due to new CFC regulations, so if someone happened to run out of their inhaler, they'd be forced to go through their doctor to get relief. So I did what I had to and made a doctor's appointment at the end of October. The appointment went well, and I was able to express my breathing difficulties to my doctor. He rallied against me using primate mist and instead put me on albuterol, which I had used frequently throughout my life already. I took his advice and thanked him for not prescribing an inhaler called Advair, which almost collapsed my lung a few years back when a different doctor suggested I switch. On my way to fill my prescription, I noticed that he had given me a year's worth of refills for the daily inhaler, Flovent, but only allowed one refill of the rescue inhaler. Realized as well that the rescue inhaler costs around $40, but the daily Flovent is around $145. That's right, $145 for one single inhaler. Knowing that I was still in my bad season for asthma, I quickly called my doctor to ask about only getting one refill. His nurse quickly put my concern to rest when she said, "That's not one refill, but 1 year of refills." I thanked her and got the prescription filled. Since I had been off the daily Flovent and was just getting off primate mist, my breathing took a while to stabilize. I ended up going through the refills in only a few months, which is normal for me during fall. However, it was now winter and smooth sailing was ahead for me for at least the rest of the cold weather season. I knew the New Year's holiday was a few days away, so I decided to order another refill before the doc went on vacation. I was surprised when I got to the counter and the lady said my refill was denied by my doctor. I immediately called my clinic with my concern, but all I could do was leave a message and hope the nurse called me back before the holiday weekend. She did call the next morning, but only stated that the prescription was still denied and that I had to make another appointment if I wanted a refill. Keep in mind that we're talking about a simple inhaler to help treat a life or death illness. I called them again and expressed that I was just in for an appointment a few months ago and didn't feel I needed to see him again. I've had asthma all my life, and all my past doctors trusted me to make the right decision about how much medication I needed according to my physical symptoms. I asked to speak directly to the doctor because I wasn't getting anywhere talking with the nurses or the clinic operator. All she said was, "I'll leave him the message." She didn't seem to realize that we were talking about something so serious. I knew that if the doctor didn't call me by the end of his shift Friday, that I'd have to wait 2 more days before I could even speak to him, let alone get a refill. If you find this hard to sympathize with, run around the block and then try to breathe through a wet pillow. I guarantee that after 5 seconds you'll be begging for relief. Now imagine going a whole weekend not knowing if this is going to happen, and that the very person who can give you the relief won't even return your phone calls. He never called. I wasn't upset just for myself, but I thought of all the other people who might experience the same apathetic response to a life or death illness. I knew I had to take some sort of action to express how strongly I felt about the situation. So, the first thing I did when I woke up today was to call again. I felt a little bad for the nurse because she had to hear all of this from me, but even after everything was expressed she would say nothing but, "Sorry, The doctor can't do anything until you make another appointment. I didn't want to make another appointment, not just for the principle of it, but because all my doctor visits have to be paid in full by me due to my current insurance policy rules. I told her that since I can't seem to get through to the doc, I may have to speak to the clinic supervisor. I asked for the supervisor's name and then ended the call in order to calm down a bit. Guess what? 5 minutes later my doctor calls, and he was not happy at all. I thanked him for calling back and expressed my concern for how carelessly my calls and cares were being treated, but then he unleashed on me. He sternly chastised me for questioning him and the messages he gave his nurses for me. He said that he refused to give me even one more refill until I made another appointment. I asked if I had any other choices, but he just exclaimed, "You have no other choice." I literally got chills when I heard this and could only hang up the phone in stunned silence. This silence quickly became a rush of adrenaline. I thought, okay, I need an appointment to see this guy face to face. I'll make one right now regardless of cost. In less than an hour we were both in the same room. He came in visibly nervous, but I had this unexplainable calmness enter me. I noticed he had his nurse stationed right outside the door, just in case I was going to make a scene. I told myself that I wouldn't get excited, but would instead calmly get through the exam, get my refill, and leave. This calm lasted about 10 seconds. He came at me with questions, and I quickly answered them and returned the questioning. He fumbled as he tried to answer some of them. I expressed to him that since I've had asthma my whole life, I was able to gauge the severity of my symptoms and administer my medication likewise. He scoffed. I also told him that I'm hesitant to get a different type of asthma medication because the last time I did, the other doctor gave me that Advair stuff in a round purple canister and it nearly collapsed my lung. He actually followed that by saying, "That's what I was going to recommend." Can you believe that? Even after I previously told him my Advair story. I called him on it too. I said, "Why do you guys keep trying to give me an inhaler that kills 4,000 people a year, but you won't give me one single emergency refill on a less dangerous inhaler that could save my life?" He didn't have an answer. He looked upset as he whipped out his prescription pad, wrote me a refill, and told me that this should get me by for a bit while I go and look for a new doctor. He actually fired me as a patient. Sure, I was stunned, but I couldn't just let that go by. I knew he was acting childish just because I dared to question his logic. I said, "So you're telling me to switch doctors because I make it a habit to do research and to ask questions about the very medication that can save or end my life?" He then said, "You seem to have an agenda, me, the one with an agenda, and our philosophies on illness are completely different, so maybe you should just leave and find someone who agrees with you." He then told me that I was dangerous to him and that I was going to die from my asthma because I was in denial. I told him that death didn't scare me, but dying from a lack of knowledge did. He didn't understand, but instead hurried towards the door. I thanked him for the help he did give me before, and then he walked out. So that's my story. Make of it what you will, but I'm not saying all doctors are this way. I just wanted this out there so anyone who experiences this same thing knows that they're not alone.